Paul Merson verdict on this current Newcastle United situation. Paul Merson has been discussing Newcastle United and the current situation at St. James Park. The former Arenal player speaking, with now approaching the 27th NUFC Premier League match of the season. Eddie Howe and his players having played 38 matches in total already, in all competitions. Paul Merson discussing the possibilities ahead of Newcastle United playing at home to Wolves. News. Paul Merson verdict on this current Newcastle United situation. 2 hours ago for CommentShare. Paul Merson has been discussing Newcastle United and the current situation at St. James Park. The former Arenal player speaking, with now approaching the 27th NUFC Premier League match of the season. Eddie Howe and his players having played 38 matches in total already, in all competitions. Paul Merson discussing the possibilities ahead of Newcastle United playing at home to Wolves. Fluid logo. Paul Merson talking to Sportskeeda ahead of Newcastle v Wolves. Newcastle went to Arenal and got absolutely battered as I predicted. They had a great result in the FA Cup in midweek but are set to play against Man City in the quarter-final, so that's the end of their cup run, you could say. Wolves, on the other hand, are a very underrated football team and have been a good team to watch under Gary O'Neill. I think there will be goals in this one, but I think Newcastle will just nick it at home. I'm only saying that because while Wolves are a good team, they are at their best when they aren't expected to win, which isn't necessarily the case here. The Magpies got into the top 4 last season, and that came as a huge surprise. In terms of their performances in the current campaign, I'm not really shocked with their current predicament as they collectively overachieved last season, so everyone knew it would be impossible for them to keep that up. We shouldn't judge them based on that as we all knew that wasn't going to happen again. Prediction, Newcastle United 3-2 Wolves. So is Paul Merson on the money here? Well, he thinks there will be goals today at St. James Park, and I think that is a pretty safe bet. Newcastle United have not had a single goalless draw in the Premier League this season in 26 games, whilst Wolves have had just 1 0-0 in their 26, away at Brighton in January. Newcastle United have scored more Premier League goals, 54, this season than all but the top 4 in the Premier League. Whilst in all competitions, Eddie Howe's team have scored in all of their last 11 matches and scored 24 goals in total in them. The problem, of course, is that as well as scoring 24 in their last 11 games, Newcastle United have also conceded 24 goals. So whilst the journalists and pundits are happy to totally ignore that Newcastle United have continued to carry plenty of goal threat despite so many key players missing week after week, month after month, none of us are daft not to recognize the number of goals conceded at the same time. It has been 4 wins, 2 draws and only 1 defeat in the last 7 Newcastle United matches, but fair to say United not having been totally convincing at both ends of the pitch in the same game, apart from odd match such as Villa away. Could today be the one where everything clicks and certain factors at last come good in NUFC's favor? Well, Wolves have had only 2.5 days since their FA Cup win over Brighton, a day less than Newcastle's at Brighton. Wolves boss Gary O'Neill talking a lot about the difficulties of having a small club squad to work with, due to the sheer number of players they had to let go last summer to try and not break FFP/PSR rules. Wolves have had a reputation for playing a lot of nice football in recent seasons, but not scoring many goals. That had improved this season with 40 PL goals scored so far, but with Hwang Hee-kan, 10 PL goals, getting injured on Wednesday and joining Mateus Cunha, 9 goals, that leaves midfielder Lemina, 4 goals, as at best their most prolific goalscorer available today. As outlined above, Newcastle United have continued to score goals for fun despite countless missing players, and could they just at this key moment of the season now see a massive further boost to their goal-scoring threat, both in the starting 11 and during matches. Top scorer Isak has recently returned to action along with the likes of Barnes, prolific from the wing for Leicester, Willock, scored a beauty at Arsenal on his return, and Anderson, top scorer in pre-season. With possibly Wolves' goal threat blunted with their 2 big players missing and Botman hopefully refreshed from a midweek rest returning to the United defense, when taken into account along with Eddie Howe seemingly now having far more options, including impacting off the bench potentially. Just maybe a convincing win and morale-boosting clean sheet this afternoon? Wolves are a decent team for sure, but if Newcastle United can click and play well, I am confident it will equal 3 points.